Oh man, where do I begin? We got to talk about the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos just lost to the Miami Dolphins 70-20 this past week. Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos have become an unmitigated disaster. It is an absolute dumpster fire. It's a disaster. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Football League has been available to us all for over 100 years. Only 3 times in the history of the National Football League has a team scored 70 or more points. One of those teams is the 2023 Denver Broncos, led by Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. Let me tell you something right now. Glancing at that game and watching that game, if this were my first time watching an NFL football game and I turned on Dolphins versus Broncos with no knowledge whatsoever, I would be asking myself seriously, is this a CFL team? I mean, guys, it looked like prime Nick Saban and Alabama versus Southern Arkansas. People, it was that bad. And we have to be real about Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Since Russell Wilson has come to Denver, we're 2 years in, not fully 2 years in, but you get the point. Russell Wilson has won only 22% of his games. I mean, folks, the Denver Broncos were winning more games when Drew Lock was starting for them a couple of years ago. Drew Lock, in a 21-game sample size, has a record with the Denver Broncos as their starter of 8-13. Everyone called Drew Lock terrible, trash, and said he was a bust, and those things were warranted, and those headlines were true. But you look at Russell Wilson, who many people believe to be a Hall of Fame level quarterback, a guy that could get in the Hall of Fame one day. The Broncos are 4-14 so far to this point with Russell Wilson as their starter. I mean, you're not getting much of an upgrade here, people. I don't really see what is going on in Denver. It's baffling to me. I don't understand it. Russell Wilson, we have to admit this, he is rapidly declining. He's a rapidly declining quarterback. And a lot of people thought that Russell Wilson would take a massive leap this season with the Broncos, with Sean Payton coming to town. Has Russell Wilson been better than last year? Yes, he has. But that is not saying much, because last season, the Denver Broncos, led by Russell Wilson and then Nathaniel Hackett, it was arguably the worst offense in the entire National Football League. Now, that's improved a little bit, but like I said, not saying much. The Broncos have not taken this massive leap forward under Russell Wilson being the quarterback, and now Sean Payton coming to town. Okay, I don't see a path for Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos ever truly being great. I just don't quite see it. I mean, I really don't. You know, you look at Sean Payton, you said, okay, this is a guy that helped save Drew Brees' career, arguably helped turn Drew Brees into a Hall of Fame quarterback. Drew Brees was struggling in San Diego. Finds Sean Payton, boom, he takes off, he wins the Super Bowl, rides into the sunset. Drew Brees is an awesome thrower of the football, but you have to give Sean Payton a lot of credit as well. You look at Russell Wilson, you thought, man, you know, Russell Wilson had a lot of success in Seattle, kind of had a down year last year in Denver, but man, you know, if he can just get with Sean Payton, it's going to work. And we're left with very mediocre results. In fact, the Broncos haven't even won a game yet under Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. They're 0-3. Now, again, like I said, I don't see the path for the Broncos being a great football team in a conference with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that division has become very, very frisky. Jacksonville's division, you're talking about also the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills. You know, we'll see if Aaron Rodgers can return to the New York Jets. I would take the entire AFC North over the Denver Broncos in terms of what they have on paper and their potential future, looking at the outcome of all 4 of those teams. I don't see a path for the Broncos being a great football team under this regime. You're paying Russell Wilson a crap ton of money. It's hard to move on from Russell Wilson. And people can say, oh, well, the Broncos can just go and draft Caleb Williams. You know, he's the answer. the great USC quarterback. First of all, you don't know if Caleb Williams is going to be a slam dunk star. We all think he's going to be a slam dunk star, but we've seen high level quarterbacks in college, come to the NFL and not do, jack you know what. But the point is, here's the thing, people. Are the Broncos ever going to get to that point to be able to grab Caleb Williams? Because Sean Payton doesn't seem like he wants to tank. You know for a fact Russell Wilson knows his reputation is on the line. By no means does Russell Wilson want the Denver Broncos to be in a position to draft a guy like Caleb Williams. You're probably going to have the first overall pick to get that big-time starter quarterback that you guarantee that you really, really like. And I think that Denver, look, it's been a disaster, but this is not the most untalented team in the National Football League. You get what I'm saying? I think the Broncos will squeak out a couple of wins here and there, but the Broncos did not bring Russell Wilson and Sean Payton to town to just squeak out a couple of wins here and there, to just be around 500. No, people. This was supposed to be a Super Bowl formula for the Denver Broncos. You had all these great pieces. You thought you had the weapons. You thought you had the defense. All you needed was the quarterback and head coach combination, and it just doesn't quite fit. I think Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, we're finding out they're kind of an odd fit. We don't know if Sean Payton still has that juice. To me, it seems like he's a lot more talk rather than actions these days. He's going to the podium, putting up all these great quotes, and we don't see any results on the football field. And listen, people, when you lose 70-20 in an NFL football game, you lose by 50 points. It is not just solely on one player or one unit on your football team. There's an issue top to bottom on the Broncos roster and in the Broncos front office. I'm not saying you got to tear down the entire regime and things like that, but man, there needs to be some major changes going forward in Denver if this cannot improve. I mean, again, Russell Wilson and Denver Broncos, they've turned into a disaster, and it's a sad story because I thought Russell Wilson could maybe come in and be a great feel-good story, and it hasn't happened so far. The Broncos are an unmitigated disaster up to this point. How do you lose by 50 points in an NFL football game? I understand the Dolphins are very talented. I get that you have a bad Sunday or two, but man, have the players quit on Sean Payton? Have they quit on Russell Wilson? Have these guys lost the locker room? Because when you're losing by 50 in an NFL football game, boy, oh boy, do you got some issues. It's hard to wrap your arms around it and your head around it, but that's the reality. And, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, along with Sean Payton, a lot of questions moving forward regarding their future.